happy Tuesday. As you know, I am Teraleen Campbell, and this is actually World Elder Abuse Day. And so it's how kind of coincidental that we are here tonight doing this session. This is the first, as I call it, or the kickoff, the inaugural of my Care for the Caregiver segments and sessions. Those of you who know me know that I have written a couple of books about being a caregiver, as I have been a caregiver. So that this is nothing that I've read. This is something that I have lived. Anything that I tell people, I believe in being authentic. And so it is really about what I have lived. And so with that in mind, I have also started a group called Caregivers Connect, and that is a Facebook group. And so on the Facebook group, and just as a result of my books, I have heard from so many caregivers. I've heard from you and how people have said to me, gee, Teraleen, I wish that I had known such and such. I wish that someone would have told me before I was thrust into the role and the life of a caregiver. There are certain things that people wish they had known. And so with that in mind, I am commencing and beginning this series of Care for the Caregiver sessions, because I want to help provide answers, provide support to those who are a part of the caregiving community. One of the things, as we have gone through this last 15 months or so of COVID, is that while we know that upwards of 600,000 people, heaven forbid, were lost due to this pandemic, so many more survived, but they now are not the same physically and mentally. And so for many, for hundreds of thousands, they're left and they're alive, glory to God for that, but they now need caregivers. And so I've been reading about what's now being called the caregiving crisis, because so many more have been thrust into this role of being a caregiver. And so again, with that in mind, I begin this segment, this series for caregivers. So if you know a caregiver, I'm here for you. Tonight is we're beginning. They will be monthly sessions, and they will also be available on demand via my YouTube channel. Yes, in case you did not know, Evangelist Teraleen also has a YouTube channel. So I invite you to subscribe to that. Not junk, but it is about uplifting and supporting those to whom God has joined me. And so, I invite you to join and to subscribe. It's under my name, simply Teraleen Campbell, my YouTube channel, so that you can utilize that as a tool. If you're a caregiver, and even if you're not, it's not just about caregiving, but the sessions will be available on the channel, because one of the things that I know is that the lifestyles and the schedules of caregivers vary greatly. We don't have a lot of time. When we do eke out the time, sometimes it's in the middle of the night. It may be super early in the morning. It may be late at night. And so I know that there's not one cookie cutter time for caregivers. So these sessions will be available to you for viewing after this live. And so tonight, I am super excited I'm super excited to be able to bring to you a topic that I kind of call it, TaNoah, you may laugh at me, but I liken it to spinach. It's something that you need, but you don't necessarily want. And so we're going to talk about insurance. We're going to talk about proper life insurance, adequate insurance, whatever proper is to you. But we're going to educate. So tonight, you don't have to be a caregiver to tune in and to hear what we've got to share tonight. But we are going to talk about something. A lot of people don't like to talk about death. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But it is time for us to have, this is about courageous conversations. And it is about preparing some of you to have courageous conversations in your families, in your circles of influence, with those to whom you are connected. You need to have conversations about insurance, about life insurance. You know, we talk about when you're dating somebody, when you get married, how's their credit score, what they do for a living. But how about, do you have insurance? You know, what about that? So that's the topic of discussion for this evening. And with that in mind, it brings me great joy and pleasure to have as my guest this evening the owner of Ms. Insurance Agency. So she is not new to this. I'm going to be bringing you subject matter experts because I don't profess to know everything, but I do know how to get people. That's a great thing. I know how to get the right people in front of the right people, and I will be connecting you. And so she said to me that earlier this afternoon we spoke that, you know, Tara, did you know I'm one of your assignments? and so I thank God tonight that TaNoah Morgan and I are connected. We first met like years ago, decades ago. Because we're members of the same sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, but we are now a part of doing the work of God and in our community, both through Zeta and through our foundation. So Mrs. TaNoah Morgan, again, is also the chair, the board chair of the Distinguished Pearls Foundation, which is a nonprofit entity of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Tau Delta Zeta chapter. But beyond that, she is the owner and proprietor of Ms. Insurance Agency. And so I wanted to bring TaNoah on tonight to share with you some valuable information, to answer questions that you may have about insurance, because sometimes we shy away from the topic because we don't really understand insurance, and so I just can't even think about it. But I'm here to tell you, good evening to Carlos. I'm here to tell you that we cannot, good people, brothers and sisters, we cannot continue to shy away from something that is so important. And I'm going to be, I have a friend that tells me sometimes I'm a little too honest, but I'm going to be brutally honest and say right from the onset that there are too many GoFundMes out here for people who don't have life insurance, who did not have life insurance, and you leave, and now we're scrambling to donate, and sometimes there's just not enough money, and trying to figure out how we're going to pay for a service, how we're going to pay for the life insurance, and so I think TaNoah's got me on. But trying to figure those things out, I will say, as a caregiver, one of the most difficult things, any of us, when we lose a loved one, you're already dealing now with new grief, fresh grief, and then to have to have on top of that be faced with, how am I going to get these arrangements together, the financial aspect, in addition to the administrative aspect. No, let's not do that to our family members. One of the blessings for me was that my mother, when she transitioned 4 years ago, her stuff was straight. And so that was not a burden that I had to deal with. So without further ado, TaNoah, you ready? Let's get into this topic.
Hey, Tara, thank you for having me, and thank you for such a warm welcome. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity to talk about this very important topic, spinach. I don't know. I find it to be more like pineapples. I think it's delicious and tasty.
Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that. This is what you do. So yes, but understand, to the novice in many, it's just like, oh my God, this is a lot.
I know. It can be overwhelming, and a lot of people, I think, I think it's just about the mindset, and it's just about how you think about it. Because, I heard you say in your introduction, a lot of people don't like to talk about death. I don't.
Right.
It's not about death. Life insurance is about living, and is about those who are living. So, and it's about making your life better and making their lives better. So that death isn't a topic that I talk about.
Okay. Fair enough. So tell us, let's talk about the types of life insurance, because I think that that's one of the things that trips people up and frustrates people, is that they're not quite sure and they're not understanding about the types of life insurance. So can you go into that? Let's start
Okay.
there.
Yeah. So, and I think you're right. And also you said in your introduction that people don't really understand it. I think a lot of people do have questions, but they don't even know what question to ask a lot of times. And that is difficult when you kind of are lacking knowledge about a topic. It also lends um, to you not being able to make proper decisions. So one of the things that I definitely try to do and make sure with every person I talk to, and when I have platforms like this, is to help people understand what life insurance is, what it isn't, and the types of life insurance and what life insurance can do for people. Now that can be a long conversation, but I'm going to try to boil it down to a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, what life insurance is a financial tool. That's what it is.
Okay.
Life insurance can't do anything to curb your grief. It can't bring your loved ones back.
Right.
The only thing that we can do when we face the loss of a person that we love is, if that person had some sort of a financial responsibility toward us, we can try to rectify the loss of finances. And that's what life insurance is and what it does. It's a financial tool. It is to help those who are still alive be able to continue with the lifestyle that they have. It's the type of thing that, you talked about being able to take care of burial and not using GoFundMe, not having to hit up relatives and friends. It does all of that, but it can do more. It can make sure that a widow or widower and young children don't have to leave their home in 30 days.
Yes.
Because when that spigot is turned off, it's off. And if you don't have life insurance, then you don't have a means of replacing that income that's been lost in the household.
Okay.
So what life insurance is primarily a financial tool. It's a tool to make sure that your finances stay steady. That's what its purpose is and what it's all about.
A tool to make sure that your finances stay steady.
Right. One of the things I love about insurance is, how we always talk about life having ups and downs, and we go through ups and downs. Insurance is about making sure life only has ups.
Okay.
Okay. Because if you're going along and, you're going along, making money, everybody's doing good. If there is a death, that could be a loss. But if you're properly insured, it makes sure that you continue to just go up.
Okay.
Life insurance and all types of insurances is simply a means of trying to eliminate, and I'm going to say it's man's way, right? Of trying to eliminate the downs in life to make sure that there are only ups. And it's a very important financial tool. So, and that's really part of the reason why I love it. It's the type of thing that makes a tremendous impact in the lives of the people we love, and more broadly in our community.
Okay.
Right. We want to see that, if something happened to sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so, that their family is not on Skid Row.
Absolutely.
We want to see our family, our friends, our community members. We want to see them do well. Nobody is happy or rejoicing when you look down the street and you find out that your neighbor or the kid that your children play with, that they have to leave and have to suffer all of that, the change in their lifestyle after having already experiencing a loss.
And
Right.
I've seen that happen to people, and it is one of the most sorrowful things to see. And as a bystander, as a friend, there's nothing that we can do to stop it from happening, unless we have just a windfall of money come in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is this topic is so important, and obtaining insurance is important, because in many cases this is where you have to do it from the front end.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So to help you to ensure that there is not a loss later, a major, we're already dealing with the emotional aspect of grief and of losing a loved one. And then when you now, as say, the parent who's left, the spouse who's left, have to realize, now I've got to vacate the home that we built for 10, 20, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I tell these children that that they have to change schools, and that they're leaving their friends? And or before we even get to that, how do I deal with the funeral home about arrangements? Because they're like, that's nice, but I need some money. And I've been doing a lot of reading and things about just our history. And I remember watching one of the documentaries about the Black church, mm-hmm. from Henry Louis Gates. And mm-hmm. I remember him talking about the fact that back in the day, our ancestors, they couldn't get life insurance.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm. There was, so that's where we have this practice that now I hear people say, well, what about the church? Can the church pay for a funeral? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, that was thrust upon churches, or churches did that, for our ancestors, because there were not insurance companies
that were willing to take us on.
People.
That's
so
correct.
Yes, they utilize organizations such as the church, and or put funds in these in other pots, so to speak, mm-hmm. to cover burial expenses, because that's what they had, and their ingenuity came forth to do that. But now, sisters and brothers,
it's a new day.
I'm here to tell you that is no longer necessary.
Yeah.
We now have a tool that is tried and true, so that you don't have to go to the pastor, to the deacons. You don't have to not be a member. I mean, let's be real. I'm a real talk kind of chick. Some of y'all don't go to church, but then you want the church on the corner to pay for somebody's funeral. Come on now.
I need my sign over here to say preach.
Girl, I mean, so again, that's not what the church is about. Saving souls. Back in the day, our ancestors, that was a byproduct, a side part, because they didn't have an alternative. But now you have alternatives. You
there are
alternatives.
And to take it back even further, I don't know if you ever remember maybe some of your parents or grandparents talking about paying church dues.
Yes.
Yeah. Church dues were essentially their life insurance policy.
Yeah.
That was essentially their life insurance policy. It was money that you paid to the church on regular, so that they will bury you in the church cemetery or help you get buried when your time came. That's what church dues was about.
Yeah.
It wasn't a tithe. It wasn't a tithe, but I'm not going to get into that sermon.
I know. We're not going to talk about the tithes tonight. Let's talk about types of life insurance.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I completely.
I know. I did too. But I just had to say.
I know. So basically, there are two types of life insurance. There is a permanent type of life insurance, and then there is an impermanent type of life insurance. Most people are used to hearing the terms term life insurance or whole life insurance. Mm-hmm. They're a little, the terms they're fine terms to know, but they're a little bit inaccurate, just a tiny bit inaccurate. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of explanation, and this might be something that kind of help people to remember about the two different types and kind of how they differ. So that terminology is very accurate because it is an impermanent type of life insurance. A term is a period of time. A term life insurance policy lasts for a period of time. Usually that term is maybe 10 years or 15, 20, even 30 years, but it is a specific period of time. It is a term. So it's just like I like to compare it to renting an apartment. You know, if you have an apartment that you're renting, you rent it for a term. You have a 1-year lease. And when that time is over, if you're supposed to vacate that property on June the 30th, you can't be there on the 4th of July. Right?
Right.
And by the time July the 1st rolls around, the landlord doesn't owe you anything. And you don't owe the landlord anything. Right? Everybody, when I say that, everybody nods their head and they all agree and then they understand. And then when I say it's the same thing with a life insurance policy, if you've been paying on it for 20 years and it's a 20-year term policy and you die 20 years and 1 month later, the landlord doesn't owe you anything.
Okay.
And you don't owe the landlord anything. There is no death benefit. Even if you
that is with term. So it is a term. Once that term is over,
it's over.
That's it on both parts.
Correct.
Okay.
And people kind of feel a little funny about term when I say that. That don't sound too fair. Well, it is and it isn't, right?
Okay.
So the alternative is permanent life insurance, right? Now, people typically tend to hear that and they hear on commercials and things, whole life. So I'll give you a little life insurance history. Whole life is the very first type of life insurance that was developed. It was designed to protect you for what? Your whole life. It's a permanent policy.
Breaking it down. That's like term kaput. Whole life is to protect
your whole life.
Okay.
It's for your whole life. It is a birth to death type of a policy. Or it's for whenever you get it to death type of policy. It's one that you're supposed to have and maintain for your whole life. That's how it was designed.
Okay.
But that terminology or calling all permanent policies whole life policies is a little skewed because there have been other types of permanent policies that have been developed that have greater benefit than the whole life policy. So there's universal life policies, indexed universal life policies. There are a number of different types, and these all fall under the category of permanent policies. Permanent policies have a couple of things that they all have in common. And the most important thing is that in addition to providing the life insurance, so the actual death benefit, we call it death benefit, right? Mm-hmm. And to break that down, when I say death benefit or face value, I'm referring to the total amount of insurance. So when you go around and you tell people, I've got $1 million worth of insurance, that is the death benefit or face value of your policy. Okay. So, in addition, when you pay your premium on your permanent policy, all permanent policies have this in common, that part of your premium goes to pay for the actual death benefit, and another portion of it goes towards what we call a cash accumulation. So having a permanent policy is like accumulating cash in a bank. It's like you're building your own bank account. So just like I equated a term policy to renting, having a permanent policy is like owning a home. It costs a little more, but you also have that cash value that's building, just like your equity is building in your home. You have equity or value, cash value, that's being built into your permanent life insurance policy. And as that benefit has built, if you need the money, you can get the money. You can borrow from yourself. You can utilize it, and you don't have to have special permission. You don't have to have something have happened to you. You can use that money at any time for any purpose that you want, whether you want to start a new business, whether your child needs money for college, whether you feel like flying to Paris.
Okay.
That money is yours and you can use it. So that's what all permanent policies have in common. There is a component that pays for the life insurance, death benefit, and a component that is building cash value. So, and the difference between the different types of permanent policies have to do with how quickly they build cash value and how flexible the premium payments are. Those are the basic differences between the different types of permanent policies. So you have your term, it lasts for a period, and you have your permanent, which is supposed to last you your whole life, and it builds value for you your whole life long.
Okay. So let me ask this. I noted this was my experience when I was a caregiver for my mom. Because she had to go into a facility, for example, they counted the cash value of her insurance, of her life insurance, as income. And so there, and I didn't understand. I knew she had, it alarmed me at one point, I shall say, because I knew she had X thousands of dollars of insurance, but the cash value was like $1,000. And so I remember thinking, oh my God, do I need to go get more insurance? When the answer was I did not.
No. So your cash value is not your death benefit. So that's why I tried to show you in a whole policy, it gets separated. There's the death benefit and there's a cash accumulation. Both of those things are happening at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. And your death benefit, you can, your death benefit only gets awarded or dispersed at the time of the person's death.
Okay.
But the cash accumulation, that's the part that's accumulating for you. That's you having your own bank account.
Got it.
Borrowing money from yourself.
If you have questions and you're watching, feel free to write those questions, type your questions in the comments. We are monitoring the comments as well. I do want to ask TaNoah also about having insurance, that is life insurance policies that are solely through your employer. I know that many of us have life insurance policies that are solely provided via our employer. And I would just say from personal experience, it would behoove you, it would be to your advantage to find out from your employer, read your employee handbook, ask HR, if your employment ends with the company, whether or not you can take that insurance and, pay for the premium on your own afterwards. I say that because, again, personal experience, I'm transparent. I worked for a company for 26 years and was downsized 2 years ago now. And when that separation of employment occurred, when my position was eliminated, I asked, would I be able to, pay for the insurance policy? And the answer was no. It was a $50,000 policy. The answer was it would not follow me. And I went to Ms. Insurance, and she is now my insurance agent. So can you speak to that?
Sure.
But if you want to pick that.
Well, a lot of people, and I get this a lot of times, and especially among folks who are a bit younger. And by that, I mean like maybe in their 20s or 30s. When you're younger, you tend not to think about, what's going on or what's going to happen at the end of your life. That really is the perfect time to be getting life insurance if you don't already have it, if your parents didn't get some for you, because time is your friend. And you can use that time to let that money build and multiply and matriculate and all sorts of things. The money gets old, aged, and grows more beautiful. As our looks might start to decline, that money starts to look better and better. But a lot of people have the benefit of having a life insurance policy through their job, and that's a wonderful benefit. But there's a lot of things that people a lot of times don't understand. And one of the most important parts is, just as you said, you can't take it with you. In 99.9% of the cases, you cannot take that policy with you. You can't continue to keep it and pay for it, no matter how long you've had it. And then to add insult to injury, and I don't want to be injurious to you, of course, but to add insult to injury, what situation are you going to face when that downsizing comes, or when you quit or decide to leave that company? Not only do you lose your life insurance policy, but now you have to go get one, and you're 26 years older.
Yeah.
Right? You could have had a policy on your own 26 years ago. And if you had it, it would have been building cash value for you and becoming beautiful. And you wouldn't have had to worry about what happened when you left that job, or if that job decided to leave you. Man, I tell you, that's like a bad relationship. You've been in this relationship for 20 years, and then they leave, and you left without coverage.
Now I found out some new things about you after we broken up. Absolutely.
Exactly.
That we have a problem. So yes, and thank God I found you. And it's worked out. But absolutely. Let's talk about affordability. Making insurance affordable, because especially now where so many have lost jobs, or underemployed, unemployed. I hear you. Somebody's saying, it's not even a Holy Ghost. I hear you though. You're saying, Teraleen, I hear all this. This is good. This
sounds
is not
good.
I hear you, but look, I can't afford it.
Right. Somebody said the way my bank account is set up,
I'm absorbing expenses for my loved one, and you're telling me, but how can we make it? How can it be affordable? Because I know that term is more affordable than whole life, correct?
Permanent. Yes.
Okay, permanent. Thank you.
So that I'm actually glad that you brought that question up, because that, remember when I was talking about term, and I was saying how when I explained to people that you could have had that policy for 20 years, but if you die 20 years and 1 month later, you have no death benefit. A lot of people then looking at term and saying, I don't know if I want term. Term has its place, right? So, we have these two different types of life insurance because really we need them. We need two different types of life insurance.
Right.
The beautiful thing about term, the greatest benefit of it, is that it is less expensive. It's a lot less expensive. And if you're young, pre-55, let's say, it can be very less expensive. It really can be very, very, very affordable. And so you can get very high amounts of coverage for a very, very low payment. And that's why we need the two different types. So I'm going to just explain what a charmed life looks like, right? Okay. A charmed life, and a lot of times this type of charmed life doesn't happen in our community, but this is the way that we need to be thinking about and using life insurance, because it is a financial tool to build ourselves, our families, and our communities financially. The charmed life looks like this. You were born on September 3rd, some glorious year. And within 30 days, your parents got you a beautiful $100,000, $200,000 permanent life insurance policy. They're paying, I don't know, as little as $10 or $20 a month for that policy. And they're happy, and you're happy just because you're in your mother's arms. Now, they got that policy for $10, $20 when you were just born and 30 days old. Fast forward, you're 5 years old now. You know how much that policy costs? The same $10, $20. Fast forward a few more years, you're 18. Your parents are still paying the same $10, $20. But after 18 years, they also have a nice little cushion of cash because they've been accumulating that cash for 18 to 20 years. And now they have a little bit of money to help you go to college as well. Okay. So you used a little bit of your cash to go to college, and fast forward some more. Now you're out of college, and maybe you're ready to buy your first home, or maybe you're ready to get married. Okay. There's a little bit of cash in your policy to pay for that. But guess what else? That policy still costs you $10, $20 a month. Wouldn't you love it if your life looked like you could have the same $100,000, $200,000 in coverage at 55 years old, at 85 years old, and it still only costs you $10 or $20 a month? That's what permanent life insurance is all about. But once you get to that point where you're ready to buy a home, you're ready to have kids, or you're getting married, that's when your life starts taking on a lot more of financial responsibility. That means once you bought a home or you've had children, that means that you have to make sure that if you were to die, if something were to happen to you, that your kids don't have to move out of the home, that they still have money for college, all the things that we were talking about earlier. So that's when you start needing really high amounts of insurance. Your home costs $500,000. Your kids, the cost of college is probably going to be $250,000 for each one of them, and you've got three. You add all that money together, we're well over $1 million. So guess what you do then? Term policies. Term policies, because you're still young in age, 30, 35 years old. You've got your three kids, and you can get a term policy that lasts all the way until the last one graduates.
Okay.
Because after
let's
graduate,
here a quick second. Someone asked, what about when you retire from your job after 30 plus years?
What about it? I don't follow. Are we talking about like retirement in terms of separating from your job and whether or not you have life insurance? Or
right.
Yeah, so no, a lot of times when you retire, a lot of times you still can't take it with you. And then again, insult to injury, now you're 65 and you've got to find insurance. And now insurance is really expensive.
It's more expensive. So that makes it more expensive.
And when I say really expensive, this is all relative, right? So I mean, everybody's pocketbook is different. I don't
like health and the pre-existing conditions come into play.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
All that sort of thing. But just based on your age, they're definitely going to charge you more because they're basically taking it out on you, saying you should have gotten it earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the what I was saying is basically there's room for term, and people need it because it is very inexpensive, but there's a purpose to it. It has a reason to exist. And so when we talk about affordability, I'd like to see everybody have permanent coverage, but maybe you're in a really tight spot. Maybe term is all you can afford to do. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Bottom line, get something.
Get something. And where you are today is not where you're going to be tomorrow. When you're doing a little bit better, we swing back around and you get yourself a permanent policy. And I will actually drop this. A lot of the policies that with the companies that I work with, you can take a term and convert it into a permanent policy. So we like to call that buying a house one room at a time.
Now, someone just asked, what if a family member, a brother or sister has a pre-existing condition? What could that be held against me? Or
actually a little bit. There are certain conditions that can be hereditary that they look at. It's not necessarily held against you, but it kind of becomes a little bit a part of the calculation. So for example, if your brother or sister had some hereditary condition, they're not going to say you can't get insurance, but they are going to factor it into the probabilities that they factor when they're considering how long they expect you to live, and essentially when that policy might have to be paid out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so someone is also sharing that they're taking care of their mom. He's taking care of his mom, who is a retired federal worker under the old system. And he's wondering, how does he find out what life insurance she has now with her getting her retirement? Or does he need to just get an additional policy for her?
So that sounds like a personal question, and maybe we can talk offline about. I think that there are ways that we can look into what she does have available, but I'm not 100% certain that the civil service program provides lifetime coverage in regards to life insurance.
Okay.
Obviously, I know that they provide lifetime pension coverage, but I don't know about the life insurance portion of that. But I'm happy to find that out.
Okay.
And then secondarily, of course,
I
you
can put them in
can
touch with you.
get other coverage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then what if you don't know whether you have a pre-existing condition?
Well, then I guess you would probably answer the questions the way that you can answer them. I mean, when you go through a policy, they do ask you a series of health questions. And you answer them truthfully. If you don't know that you have a pre-existing condition, then you don't know. I mean, now if you know and you lie about it, that's an entirely different thing. But
correct.
Okay.
And then what about having the difficult conversations?
Okay.
With loved ones? And I guess this is less of maybe professional experience, but more of personal. Like I know that so many people, you know me, I'm more the direct chick, but everyone is not. And there are so many in particularly Black and brown communities.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call, as Ileana says, let's call a thing a thing. So many in our communities shy away from having the discussion. I have an aunt who never wanted to talk about death, never wanted to talk about, arrangements. On the flip side, my mother and my grandmother pretty much, God bless her soul, my grandmother wrote out 90% of her funeral. Down to the songs that she wanted played, like who she wanted to sing at her funeral, it was written out. So there was no guesswork. My mom had shared with me what she wanted by and large. So, but for those who are dealing with loved ones who don't want to talk about it, don't want to, I'm trying, Teraleen, to have this courageous conversation, but the person I need to have it with, they like, I don't want to. I don't want to deal with it. So, any tips that you would offer on how to approach the topic?
Sure. I think, and you're right. There are a lot of people in our community who have taboos, for lack of a better term, about talking about death. And I will tell you, I definitely have had a couple of clients who are like that. I mean, just nervous the whole time. But after they've done it, after they've gotten themselves a policy, they feel so much better. It's like the hugest weight has been lifted off of their shoulders. So the one thing that I would encourage people to do is to be persistent in trying to have the conversation. I realize that it's a type of conversation that makes people, or can make people, uncomfortable. But so do breast cancer screenings. And yet we do them.
Prostate exams.
And prostate exams. And yet we do them. And we do them because we have to. Maybe, the conversation doesn't have to be, we're going to plan out your funeral today. But the conversation does have to be a financial one that basically says, what us gonna do?
Right. It doesn't mean that you're going to die tomorrow.
Right.
And I would offer, if I could add to that, like you said, the person may be mad at you for a day, for a week. They may not want to have the conversation. And maybe you need to do it in pieces and come back to it. But next week, I'll leave it alone today, but next week or next month, or whenever we get together again, we do need to talk about this. Correct. Or we need to have a family meeting. But I just want to make sure that we are good and you are good. Try to make it as sweet as possible, but it's
but also direct. I mean, there really isn't any way around it. The fact of the matter, we might not want to talk about death, but somebody said there's two things in life you can't avoid: death and taxes. And I'm here to tell you, you can avoid taxes. But every last one of us, we all have to go. And that's just not we can't negotiate that. We don't know when, but it's
Yeah.
going to happen. And so it's a matter of either it's going to happen and we're all going to be unprepared and there's going to be no money and we're going to be begging friends and neighbors to help get you in the ground. Or we can take 10, 15 minutes to do this little application, get it over with, and then we never have to talk about it again.
Okay. And so, TaNoah, how can people reach you?
Oh, well, that's easy. So a lot of folks are on Facebook right now. We definitely have a Facebook page. It's Miss Insurance MD, MS, Miss Insurance MD. The MD stands for Maryland because I do cover for the DC metropolitan area. And my phone number is also 240-544-6800, 240-544-6800. And those are the best ways to reach us. You can get me on Facebook, send a Facebook Messenger request. Also, you can visit our website, which is msagencies.com. So it's agencies with the IES on the end. And those are my 3 points of contact. And I see there's a new question, I think.
Yes, I'm sorry, type. You said MS Agencies?
Yeah, MS Agencies with the S on the end.com. So the comment here, it says that I mentioned universal type of versus a universal type of permanent insurance. Could she share the difference between whole and universal? So whole is a type of permanent insurance. And the differences are that permanent types of insurance allow for cash accumulation, and they're designed to cover you from cradle to grave. And term insurance are temporary types of insurance that are for a specified term or period of time, usually 10, 15, 20, or 30 years.
Okay.
And I hope that that answered the question. If not, just, put something out in the comments.
Awesome. And share one more time, because I did not capture that.
The Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. So facebook.com, like normal, /MS Insurance MD. Miss Insurance MD.
Miss Insurance MD. Okay.
Yep.
So Miss Insurance MD on Facebook.
Right. That's all of our handles: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere is Miss Insurance MD.
Okay. Awesome. And there's your web address. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I see any other questions. Let me check my Facebook feed. We got the YouTube questions going. Okay.
I'm loving this. You're loving
it?
Yes.
Tips on choosing an insurance company, or what we should look for in choosing an insurance company. That's a great question, Mike.
Yeah, that really is a great question. I think what I try to tell people is insurance really can be difficult, right? There are like all these places that, just, fill out something online. It really isn't as easy as 1, 2, 3. And you do a lot better by having somebody to be able to walk you through. Okay. So, so my advice really is to have an agent. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client, and we've got COVID going on, and everybody's a little bit afraid. And the client was supposed to be traveling, and they asked a question on the application if they were planning on traveling out of the country, and she was. And they denied her application because she was planning on traveling outside the country. Now, if she had just been doing something online, she wouldn't have known why she was denied. And she just would have been like, oh, I guess I'm not insurable, and would have gone about her business not having life insurance. But that wasn't the case. Number one, they read it wrong and thought that she was traveling within like a couple of days of her application as opposed to the following year. And number two, they didn't ask the follow-up question, which was, had she been vaccinated? We got it all sorted out, and she was able to get her policy, no problems. But if you don't have somebody who's an agent who's basically advocating for you on your behalf and trying to work the policy, it's really hard to do. The other thing I will say too is that the different companies really have what we call a different appetites, right? So one of the things that an agent should be able to do for you, there's two things an agent should be able to do for you. The first is to get a full understanding of what your need is and letting that inform what the best company to place you with is going to be. Because like I said, all the companies have different appetites. And if they've done a good job at placing you, then hopefully you should be able to get the policy without a problem. The second thing that insurance agents should be able to do is to make sure that the policy is affordable for you. So they should, do your homework. I do lots of homework whenever I get whenever I'm working with clients, I do lots of homework to make sure that I'm getting the biggest bang for their buck, helping them to, achieve the goals that they want to achieve with their life insurance policy, and to make sure that it is very affordable for them, because an unaffordable life insurance policy does no good for anybody. Right. Nobody benefits from that.
Right.
You as a client don't. I as an agent don't. I guess the only people who do benefit is the insurance company that can take your money for a couple of months and then you stop paying. But it really doesn't do any good. So I see the question came back up again. What is universal? Is that the same as whole? No. So universal and index universal life insurance policies there are three different types of permanent insurance. There's whole, there's universal, and indexed universal. But they are all permanent styled policies. And the difference between the three have to do with how flexible they are in payment and how quickly your cash accumulates. So it's kind of like a 1, 2, 3 in terms of the speed at which your cash accumulates. Whole universal life and indexed universal life, and universal and indexed universal policies allow you some flexibility in payment. So if life happens, as it often does, and you're not able to make a payment, you lose a job, you have some financial difficulties, after a period of time, you may be able to make adjustments in your payments and keep your policy active. Whole life policies don't allow you that flexibility.
Okay, good. Y'all are asking some great questions.
Really great questions.
YouTube, and I'm loving this. This is my first time on this platform, you guys. I'm loving YouTube and Facebook live simultaneously. Yeah. And I've got one more question that's come in. Hey, mentor. My mentor is on here. And so the question has come up. Is it too late to purchase whole life insurance if you are in your 50s and 60s?
Absolutely not.
And what would be the average monthly cost for that?
Whew. Okay, so there's no average because everybody's health, life insurance is based on your age and your health. So what one 50-year-old is doing, and another 50-year-old, their life may look very different. So there's really not like an average that I can say. I will say that you probably should expect to pay more than $100 a month for a permanent policy. So yeah, I'm sorry. And I think I missed something else that she asked.
It was
too late? No, it's not too late. Yeah, that's the important part. It's not too late. And this is actually something I should say that's really important. This is a trap that a lot of people fall in. They start off life young, get themselves a term policy, long 30-year term policy. They got it when they're 20. Now they're 50 and the time is up. And they think they're going to just live out life, with very inexpensive term policies. You can, particularly if you die young. But what everyone should know is that basically by the time you get about 80, nobody wants to insure you anymore.
True.
Nobody. I have one company that I deal with that will insure you past age 85. But once you get past 85, they know that you have a shorter time left than they know that your days are more behind you than they are in front of you. And if you have not taken the step to get coverage by that time, they figure you've had all the time in the world. You've had 85 years If you haven't made that decision, you're probably not going to make that decision.
Okay.
So you don't get caught in the trap thinking, oh, I'll just keep buying term life insurance. Even with term, once you get to be 50 or 60, you don't get options for 30 years anymore. Once you get to be in your 50s and 60s, they will sell you term up until you turn 80, and then they will drop you like a hot potato.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Good,
Yep.
good information. And TaNoah, just I'll allow you a point of personal privilege as well. What other types of insurance do you offer at Miss Insurance Agency?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you asked that. So the agency is more or less a full service agency. I do primarily focus on life insurance and on retirement. So I like to help people with the financial tools that they need to live their best life, and especially to live that best life into old age and to still be financially sound and able to take care of themselves. However, because I'm trying to help people live their best life, I will also try to help them to save money on auto insurance, on homeowners insurance. We also do businesses because a lot of my clients are business owners like myself. So we have all types of business coverages, bonds as well. We do bonds. And even for nonprofits. A lot of business owners have to cover have to have general liability coverage or errors and omissions coverage. That's a type of business insurance. We do that. If you run a nonprofit, you might have to have directors and officers coverage. We also do that. So there's all different types of business policies, even commercial auto, because again, I have clients in all sorts of fields. So my tagline, and you'll see this when you contact me, if you get an email from me, it says, your agent for life. And that's because that is exactly what I intend to be. I build lifelong relationships with my customers and clients, and I want to make sure that they have proper coverage, adequate, and the best coverage and the best pricing that I can get them throughout, for whatever they're going through and whatever their needs are. So we have that wide variety of coverage to make sure that we just got your back.
Okay. Thank you, because I didn't even know that you did so much, you offer so many other types of insurances. So I've learned something. And we often look at, the Geico's, the Allstates, the State Farms, but as we're also endeavoring to support Black and minority owned businesses, I offer, TaNoah Ms. Insurance agencies for your consideration. And for those of you, I know y'all HU folks, y'all like a pack that travels together. I'm a Maryland Terp, but I will shout TaNoah and her Howard Bison out.
That is it.
Her husband are both and alumni from HU, and I'm just going to leave that there. But I'm going to give you your props and tell Corey, make sure he knows I did. Okay. but also I wanted to wrap up tonight in one. Thank you, TaNoah. You have definitely exceeded my expectation with the wealth of information that you have provided this evening. And I can tell from the viewership and from the questions that were asked, and you said you were going to be prepared to answer them, and you were, ma'am. So thank you. And I hope to those who have watched tonight and those who will watch even in the future, I was bad at this, and I should have said it an hour and 59 minutes ago, but please like, share this. This is on, you got the video, so you can share it now. Even please share on your personal pages, because this is information that people need. So if you're on social media, please share the link, share this information. And I do want to mention to you again, tonight was the inaugural of the Care for the Caregiver series that I am embarking upon. Next month, I have already booked my next guest, and you'll have to stay tuned for the announcement. But I will tell you that next month's topic will be right a perfect segue from this one. It will be about advanced directives and advanced planning. Another topic that many of us, this just is not limited to caregivers, but we need to talk about advanced planning, power of attorney. You know, what do you need to do? What happens if something happens to someone and nobody has power of attorney? That's one I can. Well, I was about to say I can write a book, but I already did. But it's in my book because when my mother first got sick, we didn't have power of attorney.
Yeah.
I didn't have medical power of attorney. I didn't have financial power of attorney. I didn't know there was a difference. But
Mm.
so when you learn, when you know better, you're supposed to do better. So we're going to talk about that. So I can tell you we rectified that situation. And so during my 7 years as her caregiver, I remember she went in for another surgery like a year and a half, 2 years later. And we made sure that we had power of attorney before she went under, and even me, healthy. You don't have to wait until someone gets sick. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm telling you this now. This is like a commercial, a preview, because some of you need that. You don't have to wait until you get sick to get power of attorney designated. When I went in for surgery 5 or 6 years ago, I made sure that I had that's already set up. I've got power of attorney designated to someone, and don't just, if you're not married, if you're single like me, don't just make it be your friend. But we'll talk about that next month.
Yes, yeah, girl, you preaching it. That is all very great information. And Tara, I'm so proud of you and glad that you decided to do this series because it is definitely important, is needed. I don't think I've ever really shared with you that I had responsibility and really still do to a certain degree. My husband's mom lived with us for a while. We were caregivers, and I was her primary caregiver. And my mom, thank God, is both still alive and able to care for herself, but I have some responsibilities there as well. So I know that this is not an easy journey, and I know that when you're in the midst of this, it can get to be a lot. And so just I appreciate everybody just taking a few moments out of their time, their very busy schedules, to take the time to listen to what we had to share. And certainly, if there's anything that I can do to help lighten that load and to ease that burden, please don't hesitate. I'm more than happy. In fact, I'm ecstatic to be of service.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and to everyone. I see people, I see your comments. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you so much. I see some folks said that when they get a moment, they're going to contact you. But just thank you all tonight for tuning in. I wasn't sure what to necessarily expect tonight, but again, my goal is to support and help caregivers and just our community in general. And so with that, I bid you a good evening, a good night. Stay tuned again for next month. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to every viewer tonight. If you are a caregiver, I pray that God would continue to strengthen you and keep you and help you for the assignment and the task that you have at this time in your life as well. God is well able. And although it does not feel good every day, know that you are equipped for the journey. And part of my assignment is to help you to be equipped naturally and spiritually as you walk this leg of your life's journey with your loved one. Good night.